It is a privilege and honor. Matthew Sampson is with us in this very studio, a man who spent 524 days in Ukraine on the very front line fighting for Ukraine. He is an international legion under the Ukrainian main intelligence service. He is a United States Marine Scout sniper. Meet Matthew Sampson.
Watch this.
Why Ukraine?
This is something that became very passionate for me when the invasion happened last year. I love helping people. It's a passion of mine. It's why I joined the military almost 20 years ago in America. I felt it was a good way for me to help people that aren't able to help themselves sometimes, whether it's with protection or security, stuff like that.
Helping people, but you are in an actual army. And you're defending something here, I believe.
Yes, and I believe that with my skills and my experience, that I felt that coming over here and joining the Legion would be the best way for me to help protect the Ukrainian people, Ukraine as a whole, and everything that goes with it. Which, for example, would be the freedom of Europe. That if Ukraine falls, then the rest of Europe is threatened.
I believe very much you are right. So you've been in Iraq and Afghanistan, right?
Yes, sir. I did combat deployments both to Iraq and Afghanistan when I was with the United States Marine Corps.
Right.
And then after that, I did security contracting in Iraq for over 2,000 days.
Oh, my God. So how Ukrainians are doing on the actual front line? What's going on there? You are in Zaporizhia?
That is the most recent frontline area that I've been to, yes. I've been to multiple front lines, including Bakhmut, Mykolaiv, since I've been here. And overall, to answer your question, it's challenging. It's both simple and complex. I say it's simple because I believe the best way to get more help is we really need a huge influx of support from the West. Not just in them helping pay for weapons, but also training and Western influence with commanders on the battlefield.
I love what you said, we. So you have your team there.
Yes.
What do you need most in terms of weaponry?
I would say weapons that would help the most on the front line would be counter-artillery technology, and also something for us to counteract the drones and anti-drone guns. The drone situation is very extreme at the front lines, and the Russians are very proficient with how they use their drones. For us as a team, and for what I see out there also, is vehicles. We are in desperate need of vehicles to be able to get to the front line. That there's been times where we have difficulty getting to the front line from various safe houses because we don't have vehicles that run. We have NGOs and donors that donate vehicles to us, and free stuff is great. We are very appreciative of the free stuff that we get. But when we get free stuff that's falling apart, then we have to find a lot of money and a lot of time to fix that. And I have one vehicle that has gone to, had to be repaired 3 times in the last month and a half.
You mean on the front line?
It's one that I took off of the front line because it didn't actually make it to the front line because it broke down on the way.
I can imagine me, myself, in a vehicle that broke down on the very front line. So, I mean, it's
a problem. There are times that people get hurt and or killed because the vehicles break down when we need them to work the most.
Who's in charge of that? Who's with new vehicles? Only NGOs and volunteers? You're not getting supplies from Army or from I don't know, International Legion? Well, tell me more about that. What is this?
I know that the Legion is doing the best they can with the resources that they have.
Right.
They're in the process of redoing some of their infrastructure to better cope with this issue. But for currently, we are mostly on our own for vehicles. We had to work on our own to contact NGOs and donors and ask very politely and nicely to see if they're willing to donate money or a vehicle itself for us to have the vehicles. And then we had to go through that process again each time we need the vehicle fixed.
So you come into NGOs and volunteers and said very politely, can you please help us not to die on the front line in a vehicle that was just breaking down? Is that literally what's going on?
Exactly. And there's a lot of times where a lot more time and focus is going towards stuff like vehicle problems and money problems of gear. We're mostly responsible for our gear ourselves. So a lot of time goes to that, and sometimes it's more than time fighting, which is hurting the war effort.
Okay, mind-boggling. All right, my next question, you need a lot of weaponry, an influx of weaponry. What if it never happens?
Then honestly, it's just going to be a lot more dead bodies at the front on our side. So that's going to be a lot of good Ukrainians that are doing the best they can, losing their lives, and a lot of good foreigners within the Legion that are losing their lives.
What would you suggest to deliver that message to the United States as a country and as a political structure, whatever it is, Senate or politicians in high chairs that are right now like Mr. Johnson, Mike Johnson, that just votes against Ukrainian aid like 9 times in a row because he doesn't want that. He's not anti-Ukrainian, of course. He's patriot of the United States of America, obviously. He's trying to fix the domestic problems that country is trying to solve, which are just waiting in the line. There are a lot of them. But the people are dying. Ukrainians are dying, and your people are dying because of cars are breaking down. There is not enough weaponry, and there is enough weaponry. The Western world has enough weaponry. Is that the case?
So yes, I believe it is. And to answer your question, I believe the thing that helps the most is exactly what we're doing right now, is being willing to sit down and have the conversation, and to do so with people that are actually experienced in the specific fields that we're talking about. So this is a great example. I've spent a decent amount of time at the front lines, so I'm able to share exactly what we're needed, all the stuff that's needed at the front lines.
So, I mean, but our show is not enough. What if that would be up to you? If you would be Mark Milley, what would you do?
That's hard to say. The people that are above my pay grade, they know more information than I do typically. So it's hard for me to answer that question. But what I can say is that I would absolutely love the opportunity to speak to some more people that are the ones that are making the decisions that affect us on the front line.
So, I mean, in the United States?
Yes, sir.
Right.
Yes. That is something that I believe would be very beneficial, so that way they can hear from someone that's actually at the front lines, especially with me being a U.S. citizen.
Exactly, that's what I meant. You're just reading my mind.
And a U.S. veteran, that I would think and I would hope that my voice would carry pretty well over there as far as what's actually needed. So that way the people that are making the decisions, they can do so in a more informed manner.
I'm happy to help, Matthew. As a professional that has been in Iraq and Afghanistan, what's going on right now in the Middle East, how that is going to impact Ukraine? Is it going to? And how?
I believe it will impact Ukraine, and I think that's just because I know how it is in America, that it can be easy to get distracted by various things in the news. So the invasion was over 600 days ago of Ukraine. Israel is now the latest thing on the news. And as more things are being reported over there and less being reported over here, less and less Americans are going to even remember that there's a war going on here, and we desperately need help.
So, I mean, Israel and Ukraine are the two sides of one front line. If I make that statement, would you call it true?
I would say that there is some truth to that. I know that Israel, they've been defending their borders for a very long time, similar to Ukraine fighting in the Donbass for almost a decade now.
Right.
But one of those is reported a lot more than the other. For myself, I had no idea that there was a conflict or war or combat in the Donbass before I came to Ukraine. I knew very little about Ukraine before I got here, before the invasion happened last year. So everything that's happened in Israel, I've known for a long time that Israel has been defending their borders for a very long time.
For like 75 years, and
at least.
Since they exist.
Yes, exactly.
Right. So my question to you is, it's more, I'm Jewish, so I have a personal question. That retaliation attack of Israel on Gaza, on Hamas, some said the answer should be proportionate. What is the proportion? How do you do that?
I think that's a very good question, and it's hard to answer without having, I can't say all the information, but more information. So it really depends on what are good military targets, what would actually defeat the enemy in each battle. That's information that obviously I currently don't have, and we probably don't have here in this room, but the leaders that make those decisions, I hope that they have that kind of information to know the best way to defeat their enemies.
Right. So Do you have family and friends in the United States, right?
Yes, I do.
What they think about your decision to go to Ukraine again, to like Matthew is in Iraq, Matthew is in Afghanistan, now Matthew is in Ukraine. Are you addicted? Are you addicted to adrenaline, Matthew? Or you are
No.
defending core human values like freedom that really means something to you?
No, again, this is just a passion of mine. Some of the time that I spent in Iraq was just for the camaraderie.
Right.
Working with other combat veterans, doing the security work that we
Right.
did at the U.S. Embassy for so long. A lot of people, stay there as long as I did, just for the camaraderie. We understand each other, and we're the brothers that we never had growing up. But for my family back home, my sister is a good example that she's very worried for me. She supports me as an individual making the choices that I'm passionate about.
Right,
but
right.
she would absolutely love to hear that I'm on my way home. So she's not all that happy that I'm here. She wasn't happy that I was in Iraq or Afghanistan. But she is supporting what I'm doing, and she's donated a decent amount to try to help fund everything that we're doing here. Because again, we're working mostly on personal finances for a lot of the stuff that we have to do here.
I still don't understand the International Legion, the people are there that are fighting for Ukraine, they are dying, and this is the front line, this is the war. So if you need Western weaponry, maybe this is a great idea to help your voices to be heard in West. Like we have to have you to put you on a plane to go to American Senate and to have a speech there. Because American people are dying on Ukrainian land, on Ukrainian ground, because there is not enough American weapons there. Am I thinking in the right direction? Right?
Yes, sir, and I concur fully. I think that is something that would be very beneficial. So that way, again, the people that are making the decisions that affect
Right.
us on the front lines are able to do so in a more informed manner, to actually hear from people like myself that have spent time out there, to explain to them the type of stuff that we need and how we need it. In my opinion, a lot of the support that we've gotten has been in much smaller piecemeal sections than it really should have been. That if the support came in bigger amounts, then we'd be able to do a lot more productive things at the front lines.
Well, maybe it is the war is business for some. Maybe it is good to protect the war. Maybe for some, it's okay now.
It could be for some. I know that for those of us that are fighting, that's not what it is for us. Everyone that I know that's fighting currently, we're doing it because we all have passions to help people. Some people, some of my fighters have children back home. And, they were appalled at the things that the Russians were doing to some of the Ukrainian children when they invaded
Right.
last year. And that's why they're here. So I can't speak for those that have their own personal agendas that are on the
Of
negative
course.
side. But,
right.
there's people screwing things up in every industry, in my opinion. And, people that are, trying to be as professional as possible in every industry.
Mr. Glenn Grant calls them, I believe it is Mr. Glenn Grant. You know him personally, right?
Yes. I connected with him a little bit last year.
Right. So he says these people are delayers. Or maybe that was Stephen Moore. But I now have a lot of friends, in position in the American military.
Sure.
So let us get back to our muttons, the Republicans and Democrats. What is the situation at the moment? So everyone knows that Ukraine is at war. Everyone wants to help, and then they're cutting the Joe Biden it looks like is on the Ukrainian side, and Mike Johnson is more like not. So what is going to happen?
I can't really speak to what's going to happen, but I think that there's a lot of people that are making these decisions that sometimes they just don't know any better. They don't know what's going on. And that's why, again, some of these conversations are very important. And also, I think with the American people, that I'm sure there's a lot of American people that are calling their representatives and telling their representatives, please vote yes for this or please vote no for this. And it's their job to listen to their constituents. However, if the American people aren't fully educated on what's going on here, then that's a problem. And I know that some of my former colleagues fall under that, where I ask them for donations, and a lot of them have responded to me of, well, we've already sent billions over there. How do you not have money to fix a transmission on your vehicle? And I have to explain that these aid packages are not piles of cash. The aid packages are largely weapons, ammunition, equipment that's worth piles of cash,
right, well,
but it's not actual physical cash that's coming over here.
And these people just probably don't understand the scale of the amount of money how costly the war is, because billions and billions is like one day.
Exactly. And I think
one day of surviving, not even of counteroffensive on the ground without like air superiority. I mean, without any air support even. So I'm starting to like the idea of getting a group of American and international military people going to the United States, talking to the United States.
And I think that's also important, not just for the military members, but even some Ukrainian civilians.
Well, there we go, right.
That here's people that are just trying to live their lives. I saw this a decent amount when I was in Iraq, a little bit in Afghanistan, but mostly Iraq, just because of how long I was there, that the locals, most of them, they're not terrorists or anything like that. They just want to live their lives. That they want to go to work without getting blown up and killed in the process. And it's something that I see here on a regular basis that's heartbreaking, whether it's here in Kyiv, whether it's in other cities in Ukraine, that the Ukrainian people, that they just want to survive. So some of them, say that they can't go to work sometimes because they spent all night, in a shelter because of air raids all the previous night. I know some Ukrainians they've been sleeping in their hallway for over a year now because they're afraid of being anywhere close to windows because of cruise missiles and drones. And that's something that the American people, I know for a fact that the American people don't really know what that's like because we've never really had war on our soil.
Exactly. That's what I wanted to say. Yeah.
Which I have to say, our country is amazingly blessed that we don't have that problem and that our people don't know what that's like.
You people are blessed with we the people, because that's how democracy. I mean, that is actually the idea of founding fathers, I believe. The Republicans and Democrats are fighting for power, and maybe there is not a lot of democracy in the United States, but maybe there is no dictatorship.
Correct.
And
Absolutely.
this is the main idea of it, because what the Russian nation did, they just granted the keys to the castle of their own freedom to a dictator, to a Tsar.
Yes.
My next question, Matthew, can you please tell about you said about camaraderie. So you are and your brothers and nuns, all right, on your Ukrainian front lines. There are people from France, from everywhere, right?
Correct.
Tell me about them, who they are, why they are there. Tell me about more your frontline life.
So again, everyone that I'm fighting with, everyone that's in my team, not one person is here to kill Russians. Everyone that's on my team, they're here to protect the Ukrainian people and Ukraine as a whole, whether it's just the people in general, the children, et cetera. So they're here to do good, and if that leads to combat at the front lines, they are very excited to go to the front lines, have good missions, do things that are productive for Ukraine, and if that turns into a lot of dead Russians, then that's just part of the job. So I'd say for the camaraderie, it's very nice to see that all these veterans from different countries, some part of NATO, some that are not part of NATO, all working together. We all have very different backgrounds, sometimes different training backgrounds, different combat backgrounds, but we learn very quickly how to work together to trust each other. So that way we know that when we're having a bad day at the front lines, whether it's in the city of Bakhmut or trying to get back into Bakhmut, that we can all count on each other. And we know that we're going to be doing everything we can to bring all of us home alive if possible.
After the inevitable victory of Ukraine, what would you do? Would you be looking for another war to do good? Or you finally go back to your family and to your sister?
I would like to go back home and have a more normal job. That's something that I would like to have. I enjoy my country. I spend a lot of time not in my country, and I miss it quite a bit. And that's something that I wanted to do for a long time. I wasn't looking for another war when this happened, and I stayed home for a little while, really thinking about it and praying about it before I actually decided to make the trip over here. I got here in May, and obviously
Right.
the invasion happened at the end of February. So
Right,
a little
yeah.
bit of time passed before I decided to actually get on a plane and come over here. So yeah, I am looking forward to being able to put away the firearms and the body armor for a period of time, or possibly for good, to move on and start a slightly different life.
Thank you, Matthew, for what you do and for your expertise and for your time and for risking life for good things.
Oh, thank you, sir. It's my pleasure. For me and all my brothers that fight with me.
Thank you so very much.